Open Educational Resources, or OERs, are resources that give explicit permission to be wholly reused, changed, or shared. The most common way to make a work open is by applying a Creative Commons license. Recently, many states have adopted regulations to increase the use of OERs because it saves money and is more flexible for reusing, remixing, and sharing. In 2012, Washington State took one of the first steps in using OERs by passing House Bill 2337, also known as the OER K-12 bill, to develop a library of openly licensed courseware for grades K through 12. In California, Senate Bill 1052 established the California Open Educational Resources Council. Its purpose was to find or develop open educational resources for 50 undergraduate courses in order to decrease college textbook spending. Likewise, recently in K-12 education, 11 states have joined together in an initiative called K-12 OER Collaborative to seek proposals to create extensive open educational resources that align with state standards. Although there are some educational and legislative trends towards open education, research has shown that there is also a general lack of awareness among teachers of what exactly are OERs and understanding the flexibility of open licenses. In a European project, researchers worked with teachers to raise awareness of the potentials of OERs and provided professional development to help teachers adopt it into their educational practices. They noticed that the lack of technology skills was a major obstacle in teacher training at first. They found that one of the ways to address the issue of technology and ease teachers into sharing resources is by introducing user-friendly technology tools known as Web 2.0 tools. These are online tools that allow users to interact and collaborate with other users online relatively easily. Participation in sharing online could be increased by connecting emotional ownership to a resource. The idea behind this is that the issue of intellectual property rights can be addressed by explicit Creative Commons licenses. CC provides non-exclusive licenses that open up a resource for broader uses without relinquishing the creator's copyrights. It supports the creator's sense of emotional ownership by allowing them to set clear guidelines about how the materials can be reused or credited, but still give others permission to use the resources liberally. Currently, there are many websites that teachers share resources on. Edmodo, WikiEducator, Curriki, and Teachers Pay Teachers are just a few. These platforms are networks that use Web 2.0 tools to enhance the creation and sharing of resources among teachers. WikiEducator and Curriki in particular promote open education. Teachers Pay Teachers, on the other hand, is a growing online marketplace targeted at educators and teacherpreneurs. Teachers can open up an online store and sell hard or digital goods. Examples of digital items are downloadable lesson ideas, plans, and even graphics to share for free or to sell. Between 2009 through 2013, TPT's reported sales growth was 16,947%. The number of products on TPT exceeds 1 million. And it has approximately 3.5 million users, buyers, and sellers. On their copyright fact page, TPT states to uploaders, "We encourage you to select a Creative Commons license to apply to your teaching content, as it lets teacher buyers know what you are allowing them to do with the work with their purchase." However, the part about CC is brief and easily missed when going through the page. I have yet to see a resource other than my own that uses a CC license. Due to Teachers Pay Teachers' popularity, I chose it as the context for my instructional materials to support the use and contribution to OERs. First, I did a goal analysis and described the major steps. For each of the major steps, I did a sub-skills analysis. This helped me organize my steps into major parts and smaller components. I also determined the entry skills. Then I did a learner analysis by interviewing a University of Houston student. She was the perfect candidate because she was in the College of Education studying to become an elementary teacher. Elementary teachers fit the largest demographics at TPT. I also did a lot of reading through the TPT forums to gather more information. From my literature review, interview, data, and input from my advisor, I decided that it was best to, number 1, use applications that are compatible with any operating system, and number 2, use free online Web 2.0 applications. I decided to go with Microsoft PowerPoint because many TPT sellers recommended it for making a preview image. I also used the online version at OneDrive because it was free and accessible to any operating system with internet connection. Next, I wrote the performance objectives and assessments. At first, I wrote a long rubric for my assessment. After I used it for the first small group trial, I realized it was not appropriate at all. I only needed a yes and no checklist to determine if the learner was successful. Then I clustered the objectives into smaller groups and estimated the time it would take to implement the instructions. Since the performance context will be at the learner's personal home computer, I decided that the best form of instruction will be to use narrated video and typed instructions with visuals. I modeled the steps of each objective and made separate video and text instructions for Windows and Mac operating systems. The early stages of my design process did not include anything about Creative Commons licenses. Originally, my instructional material was one long video for the initial one-to-one and small group trials. I received some helpful feedback and divided it into smaller parts. Soon after, I changed the goal statement, design document, and instructional materials. In the second small group trial, I received valuable feedback and made a few more changes. Here are the 3 main changes that I made. The final trial was the field trial. This last trial was the most valuable to me because I had recruited one learner who had never used presentation programs before and was frustrated with the materials. As a result, I had to revise the entry skills. Another learner was an elementary teacher who taught educational technology in a different state, so she had lots of insight on the materials. My instructional materials are organized as an interactive graphic on ThingLink. When a learner scrolls the mouse over the graphic, icons will pop up to indicate links to videos and files. The steps are listed according to the major steps in the design process and clustered according to the objectives. Originally, my instructional design project was about designing preview images for TPT product pages. This is represented by the yellow steps. The revisions to include Creative Commons licenses are represented by the blue steps. The blue steps are the essential steps in the learning process. The yellow steps, on the other hand, are optional steps. Now let's look at the introduction to the materials. Attention educators! Are you still making and passing around hard copies of your teaching resources? If you haven't yet, it's time for you to step into the 21st century and share some of your stuff online with more people. This set of instructions will walk you through the steps to upload a resource online. You will learn how to create and open a seller account on teacherspayteachers.com. These instructions are focused on how to get your first free product prepared and uploaded. You will also learn about how to make your product an open educational resource by applying a Creative Commons license. This is an important step that many people miss when they share. Below are more videos. There are also videos made for different Windows and Mac computers. I also included PDF versions of the instructional materials. These materials can also be easily shared through social media. Instructional design is a detailed process, and I was able to practice and reflect on its methods through discussions, assignments, group work, projects, and feedback from a lot of people. The most important component in my capstone design process was revise instruction. The small group and field trial learners gave me a lot of valuable input to improve the instructional materials. Some recommendations that I have for future instructional designers are: Number 1, use social media to find current information. I found a lot of interesting information through social media in the form of infographics. During the literature review and design process, I discovered that there were a lot of online communities out there on social media that share news and announcements pertaining to OERs. I'm able to follow the latest updates because of this. Number 2, collect graphics. When putting together instructional materials, it's nice to have graphics that are ready to use. Number 3, obtain regular input. I was able to see a lot of flaws in my design by getting lots of input from the learners, subject matter experts, and my advisor. I have already begun thinking about my next set of instructional materials for educators. It will be a revision of the same materials, but will only focus on making resources open or applying a Creative Commons license for any upload on any website. In the next set, I want to focus purely on copyright, fair use, and Creative Commons licenses. After that, I want to design materials for searching for and using open resources. Thanks to all the great instructors and courses that I've taken at the University of Houston, I feel prepared to be an active contributor to teacher education.